Welcome to the Vikings Now, our live show. We do it every other Wednesday here, and I'm excited. I'm Patrick Siepman. I will be your host for today's show. We got a lot to talk about, including Kirk Cousins, some Trey Lance, and we also got to hit the Lamar Jackson trade rumors again because the Vikings somehow keep getting connected to the Baltimore Ravens quarterback. We're also going to be hitting on D-Hop a little bit. And then our second segment today, we're going to be doing a dream Minnesota Vikings draft, which I cooked up. I hopped in the lab, and I got 5 picks for the Vikes that I think could really turn this team around. But while we let the audience build up here, I want you guys to get in the comments and shout out your city. Let me know where you guys are watching from in the chat, and I will give you guys a shout out. Feels good to be back. You know, Vikings Now, my man Trace and I, we switch off every single week. He's our Saints host here at Chat Sports. So me and him, we take turns going every other week, and we go live for each other's channels. So shout out your city. Let me know where you guys are watching from. You know, the Vikings, we're not just in Minnesota. We're all over. I am in the Dallas Chat Sports office. We got something from Swansea, Wales, and his username is ILoveDT94, referring to Dalvin Tomlinson, who is actually a new member of the Cleveland Browns. So that's unfortunate. And then you might have to get a new YouTube username. Jeremy Armstrong's joining us watching in Minnesota. Like I said, me and my man Trace, we're in the Chat Sports offices down in Minnesota. We got a lot to talk about on today's show. The Vikings hasn't really done too much moves so far in this little offseason free agency period, but I'm excited to get back going. Red Zone Squad saying Roseville, shout out to you. CLG Comics saying, yo, what's up, man? How you doing? C Story saying VA, I'm assuming you're referring to Virginia. Charlotte, North Carolina coming in from my man Micaiah Miller saying Skull from the QC. Skull, my friend. Skull, my friend. COG Comics saying, bro, I am in Dallas. Welcome. That's awesome. That's great to see. Vikings fans in Dallas. Got to represent, man. Got to represent. Shout out to you. CLG Comics. Love to hear it. Now we'll throw this your guys' way. If you think the Vikings are winning the NFC North next season, just give me a skull in the comments. I want this looking like US Bank Stadium on a Sunday. It's 2 p.m. Vikings, they're about to kick off to the dirty Green Bay Packers, and the skull chant is getting going in the chat. My man Trizzy Trace is joining me to get the skull chants going. Skull! 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 Get the skulls going in the chat, everybody. Get the skulls going in the chat. Shout out to Bruce Lee. Shout out to Isaiah. Shout out to Danny Yang typing skull. C Story typing skull. We got Red Zone Squad saying, Skull from Minnesota, Roseville, at school. Tuning in at school. Pay attention to your teacher, but just pay a little more attention than me, my friend. Barry Johnson saying, Skull. Shout out to you guys getting in the chat. Cheeseheads to win. Don't tell me we got cheeseheads. We got cheeseheads in the chat today. We can't have any dirty Green Bay Packers fans in the chat. Danny Yang saying, Skull Vikings 2023. Hey, listen, I feel like the Vikes are getting a little bit disrespected. Right now, the Detroit Lions, I said that. The Detroit Lions are favored to win the NFC North this upcoming season. I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's going to be the Minnesota Vikings, and I know you guys do too. Danny Yang saying boo-boo Packers, LOL, and then D. Herber saying skull in the chat. Shout out to you. Skull.
Real quick, Seeps. I want to play a game with all of the Vikings fans.
Okay.
So I'm going to put up a minute timer.
Okay.
Whoever types skull the most, you're going to get a graphic at the bottom of the screen, and you're the comment MVP.
Okay,
so,
I like that.
1 minute on the timer now. Whoever types skull
Let's
the
go.
most, you got a rapid fire.
Who's got us?
Rapid fire. Go.
Who's got us? D's in there. He's got his one skull.
D wants to be the MVP.
D wants it.
D's such the MVP.
Uh-oh.
He is so the MVP.
Barry's in there. Uh-oh. Oh, I see. I look.
Skull.
Skull. Skull. Skull. Skull. Skull. They're getting going in the chat. Come on.
Coming.
Come on.
30 seconds.
Come on.
Bruce Lee's coming up. DT is also running it.
C Story's in there. I see C Story.
Oh no, Jeremy too.
Jeremy's getting it going. Semba's in there. Slick
Who's the
Rip.
MVP?
I don't know.
Who's gonna be the MVP?
I don't know. It's going to come down. Trace is going to be the one that decides. Trace is going to be the one that decides. Keep the skulls going in the chat. Keep the skulls going in the chat.
4,
3, 2, 1. It's on. All right. Trace is going to run the numbers. He's going to hop in the lab, and we're going to figure out who the MVP is. But I do want to ask you guys this. Well, Trace is counting up the skulls in the chat. Shout out to my man, Trizzy Trace. Here we go. Do you want the Vikings to trade for Lamar Jackson? I'm going to be talking about this in our first segment on today's show. Just give me a T for trade or give me a P for pass. Bruce Lee saying it's got to be me. I sent way too many messages. Bruce, I don't know. It could be you. We did have a lot of people spamming skull in the chat, so Trace is going to have to run the numbers as we get in Jeremy Armstrong saying pass on Lamar Jackson, and Isaiah is saying pass on Lamar. I love DT saying my fingers are hurting. Shout out to you. I love DT. I saw you in there a lot too. Shout out to C Story. He's saying pass as well. Anthony Sebring, a legend here. If you guys know, you know. Anthony Sebring is a legend here on Vikings Now. He was huge during our watch parties this year. Anthony Sebring, love to see you in the chat, my friend. We're going to be talking a lot of Kirk Cousins, Trey Lance, Lamar Jackson, a little D-Hop today, Anthony. So it's going to be a ton of fun. Danny Yang is saying P. Barry Johnson is saying T. So right now I'm seeing a lot more passes than I'm seeing for trades for the former unanimous MVP Lamar Jackson, which is very interesting to me. I'm kind of indifferent on this Lamar thing. I would still be open to bringing Lamar to Minnesota. You're just going to have to have it work out financially. Obviously, the trade compensation, you're going to still have to trade for him for the Baltimore Ravens. I would still, if I was in the chat right now, I'd probably be typing my T's, but we'll see. All right. The common MVPs. Trace is running the numbers. Shout out to Trace. We got Bruce Lee. I love DT and D. Huber Sr. Shout out to you guys. You guys almost broke your fingers off typing skull too many times. Whew. Anthony Sebring is saying, what are we possibly trading for Lamar Jackson? So Lamar has the non-exclusive tag placed on him right now, which pretty much means we can offer Lamar a contract. Like right now, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, our GM, can't sit down with Lamar and offer him a contract. You would just need to also give the Baltimore Ravens 2 first-round picks. So you could have them, if you want to do it before the draft, it could be your first-round pick this year and next year. If you want to wait till after the draft, you can have it be the first-round pick after the next 2 years. I love DT. There you go. There's your shout-out. Shout-out to all you guys who are typing skulls like crazy. Now, I want to throw this to you guys. Who is your favorite Vikings player of all time? I'll give you guys mine in about 5 seconds here. But get your favorite Minnesota Vikings player of all time. I'm curious. We got a ton of diehard Vikings fans in the chat right now. I want to know what you guys got to say. My favorite Viking of all time, it's pretty mainstream. I mean, I grew up watching him. He kind of turned my love for the Minnesota Vikings. To me, it's Adrian Peterson. AP, his highlights are just, I mean, it's insane. All day coming in from Trace. Yeah, Isaiah is saying Adrian Peterson as well. Zach Allen. Zach. Ooh, I don't know. Oh, Johnson U. $10 super chat coming in from Johnson U. We'll get to that in a second. Fran Tarkinen coming in from C Story. Randy Moss coming in from Semba. AP, Isaiah. Barry Johnson saying Alan Page. That's a good one. Sebring saying Moss or AP. Love to hear it. Danny Yang saying AP. Fran Tarkenton, man. You talk about a man who really changed the just game of being a dual-threat quarterback. He was a dual-threat quarterback back in the 1970s. Throw on some Fran Tarkenton highlights if you guys haven't already. Would have to say AP, but want to put Moss as well. Yeah, Randy Moss. I mean, come on. Randy Moss is legit. The GOAT. I love DT.
There's never going to be a better stat line than Randy Moss versus the Cowboys on Thanksgiving.
100%.
There's just simply never going to be a better stat line.
3 receptions, 160-something yards, 3 touchdowns.
Just
he's
unreal.
Great.
Unreal.
And now, Johnson, shout out to you, our first super chat today, saying, wow, Seeps, can't believe you would give up on Kirk Cousins just like that. Hashtag not skull. By the way, Johnson, love your profile pic.
I was going to say, that's elite.
That is an elite profile pic. Shout out to Johnson,
So for those that don't know, this is Tom Downey.
Yeah.
After the Cowboys lost a game, he threw his laptop. Just straight up threw it.
Yeah.
Cowboys fans are just
And he captured that moment in his profile pic. Trace, you actually want to hit our super chat battle because this is a good segue here because we kind of got challenged. And we actually got challenged by our man, Trizzy Trace, actually. So that's a little something you guys need to keep in here.
I'm sorry.
So here at Chat Sports, super chats are obviously a big thing here at the channel. We like to kind of have some battles with some of our other channels here. And Johnson, you got it going so far. So our Lions channel, they went live earlier this week. They got $108 in Super Chats. And then those dirty, greasy New Orleans Saints, they got up to $600 in Super Chats last week on an unreal stream from my man Trace Gerard. They had a great time over there, but that was my man Trace. He was working. He wanted to challenge me because we know the Vikings Saints. We got a fun rivalry here.
It's been fun. It really has been fun.
It's been fun. It's been a good rivalry
for both franchises.
It's probably the best out-of-division rivalry in the NFL.
I would agree.
Like, it's up there.
There's been good, like, staple moments in both franchises, whether it's the Saints and, Brett Favre.
I know.
Or you guys in the freaking Minnesota Miracle.
The Kyle Rudolph push-off. Like, yeah, but if you guys do want to support the channel, this is a great way to do it. Whatever you guys want to talk about, you guys can kind of steer the conversation, steer the show, and hey, maybe we can have a couple of drinks if you guys want to do that as well. But hey, if we could catch Lions talk, that would be fantastic. And I'll throw this out there.
I'm getting in my ear real quick. I'm getting in my ear. Once we get to 50, we can start drinking.
Once we get to 50, we can maybe have a couple of drinks here. I'll throw this out there. If we get to 100, maybe I'll do a beer shotgun. Who knows?
Hold on.
Who knows?
Do you have a jersey here? Do you have a jersey at the stew?
I don't have a jersey at the stew. We could make the Saints fan put on a jersey.
Bring one in. I'd put one on.
Danny Yang saying his favorite Viking is Brett Favre. But yeah, if you guys do also have a question, we will be having a mailbag at the end of today's show, at the end of today's live stream. Just use hashtag Vikings. You'll be featured on a video later on this week. Really easy way, hashtag Vikings. Trace, he'll be able to pull it through our software, and I'll be able to answer your guys' question. Whatever you guys want it to be, it could be about, the division coming up this year. Do you think the Lions are actually going to be the NFC favorites? Whatever it may be, ask a question, use hashtag Vikings. If you guys are ready to talk some Vikings football as well, like today's video, I put the goal on this as 100 likes. We got 50 people watching, only 20 likes. That means at least 30 of you guys have not liked the video so far. It's free, easy way to help support us out here, and it just honestly, it gets the videos out there to more and more Vikings fans. Just go down there, hit the like button, little thumbs up icon right there. Really helps us out. I would really appreciate it. Danny Yang said, are we going to win something? I hope. Hopefully we win the NFC North and just a little more. Isaiah saying, so we know Vikings are NFC North next year, but what place does the Lions – first in the NFC North next year. What place do the Lions come in? Honestly, dude, the Lions are kind of a wagon this year. They had a great offseason. I mean, them getting Cam Sutton, Emmanuel Mosley, their secondary is going to be changed. I think the Lions are really gearing up to have a very solid year, and who would have thought there would have been – probably Kirk Cousins and Jared Goff fighting for the top of the NFC North next season. I think the Vikings and Lions, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. Danny Yang said, are we going to get something from you guys? We could work something out, Danny. It depends if we get there, though. Depends if we get there. Yeah, I think that's what we got to do. Yeah, we could do a shotgun race at 100. If you guys want to see my man Trace and I do a little shotgun race, if you guys got a couple extra pennies to spare, you want to help support us out here at Vikings Now, always greatly appreciated. But coming up on today's show, we're going to be talking about the Kirk Cousins trade rumors because Vikings fan Mike Florio tossed out that them and the Niners were actually talking. He is a Vikings fan. He's actually a Vikings fan. You would never believe it. But then we're also going to get into my dream Minnesota Vikings draft plan. I'm very excited to show you guys that video. Then we also have a Minnesota Vikings mailbag that we'll be getting into. So get those questions in there. Hashtag Vikings. You guys will be featured on the mailbag today. But hey, Trace, if you're ready, I think it's time to dive into the Kirk Cousins, the quarterback trade rumors. Let's get it going. Welcome to the Vikings Now. I am your host for today's show, Patrick Siepman. Coming up on today's show, we're going to be talking about the Kirk Cousins to the San Francisco 49ers trade rumors. Vikings fan Mike Florio tossed out the idea that the Vikings were shopping Kirk Cousins at the 2023 NFL Scouting Combine. And hey, if the Vikings were to move off of Kirk Cousins, Could they potentially pull off a Lamar Jackson trade? We're going to be talking about that. And then obviously DeAndre Hopkins, he's been kind of thrown in the trade rumors as of late, but he could potentially actually be a free agent coming up. There was a report that came out around D-Hop, so we'll get into all this and more on today's show. But I do want to ask you guys this one thing. The most subs we ever got on a video here at Vikings Now was 167. 167 people saw that video and they decided, I want to hit that sub button. Can we break it on today's video? That's my challenge for you guys. It's a free, easy way to help us out here on Vikings Now. Just hit that subscribe button. Free, easy. It makes me look, honestly, really good to my bosses as well. Go down there and hit that subscribe button. So let's talk about Kirk Cousins to the San Francisco 49ers. There was a report that came out that the Vikings were shopping Kirk Cousins at the 2023 Scouting Combine. Obviously, at the Scouting Combine, there's a ton of GMs and coaches and scouts and all that are all talking, so the rumors really, really get going. But this was broken down by Mike Florio, and he said there was chatter that the Vikings were trying to move Kirk Cousins at the Combine. The Vikings would create just $10 million if they traded him after June 1st. So if the Vikings were to move off Kirk Cousins, I would expect it to be after the June 1st deadline. And then Florio mentioned the San Francisco 49ers in that conversation because we all know Kyle Shanahan has the biggest man crush ever on Vikings quarterback Kirk Cousins, dating back to his days with the formerly known as the Washington Redskins. But I do think Kirk Cousins, past 4 seasons, listen, he's going to put up good numbers. He has been fantastic. Just over 4,000 yards in the past 3 years. He's always had a solid touchdown to interception ratio, and he's always had a solid completion percentage. But it always comes down to Kirk. Can he be the quarterback that gets you over the hump? Can he be the quarterback that can win the big game, get you to the NFC title game, get you to the Super Bowl? The question still remains on Kirk Cousins. I think he was good this past season. He just wasn't great. And I do want to toss this out there. Maybe a Kirk Cousins for a Trey Lance trade. We obviously know Trey Lance is the Minnesota native. And could it be a possibility where the Vikings just say, you know what? We kind of met our threshold with Kirk Cousins. Let's go. We're tired of being good. Let's go try to be great and bring in a guy like Trey Lance. And Trey Lance obviously is not a top quarterback in the NFL. He's nowhere near being a top quarterback in the NFL right now, but he has a ton of untapped potential, and maybe the Vikings support system could turn Trey Lance into that guy. I got a couple more things to say on this in a second, but I want to ask you guys this on today's pinned comment. Do you want to trade for Trey Lance? Give me a T for trade or give me a P for pass down below. This is a pinned comment on today's video, so if you get hit with a YouTube ad break, just let it play. Go have some fun. Answer that pinned comment down in the comment section. Personally, I would actually do this. I think a Kirk Cousins for Trey Lance trade straight up, honestly, I think it benefits both sides. I know a lot of you guys be saying, yeah, but that would be a downgrade at the quarterback position. Yes, for the short term, I do believe Kirk Cousins is still night and day a better quarterback than a guy like Trey Lance. However, I just think Trey Lance has that untapped potential that he could potentially be a franchise quarterback. And honestly, if you're the San Francisco 49ers, Kirk Cousins has been one of the more durable quarterbacks in the NFL over the past couple of seasons. And what have the Niners struggled with the most out of like their number one problem over the past couple of years? It's injuries at the quarterback position. And I know Kyle Shanahan, like I just mentioned, he loves himself some Kirk Cousins. So just keep your eyes on a little Kirk Cousins Trey Lance trade. But looking at Trey Lance's career stats in 4 games started so far. Again, these numbers are not going to blow you out of the water right now. Only 55% completion percentage, 797 yards, 5 touchdowns and 3 interceptions, and he has 235 rushing yards and 1 touchdown on the ground. Overall, I think Trey Lance is a huge boom or bust prospect. I do think, though, Lance hasn't played enough ball in the NFL to really determine how good he is or how good he can be. Like I just said, he's only started 4 games in the NFL so far, but just that overall potential he has, that dual threat ability. And hey, Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, they know a good amount about football. They were able to trade 3 first-round picks to move up and get that guy right there. I don't know. I still think Trey Lance still has that untapped potential that I'll be willing to take a risk on right now. Now we're going to be talking about how the Vikings can actually get Lamar Jackson. Let's just say the Vikings do end up sending Kirk Cousins to the San Francisco 49ers, and they don't get a Trey Lance in return. could be something that's pretty interesting. So how this could happen, this is pretty fun. Kind of cook this up here for you guys. Number one, find a team that would take on Kirk Cousins' contract and just kind of take on Kirk Cousins as being their quarterback. That's step number one, because Kirk Cousins does have a no-trade clause. So you're going to have to find a spot where Kirk's going to agree to go to. That's why I kind of mentioned the San Francisco 49ers, because I will say this. Kirk goes to the San Francisco 49ers. Are they not the favorite in the NFC by far? I think they would be. And then step two, obviously the non-exclusive tag was placed on Lamar Jackson, so you would have to give them 2 first-round picks, so you send them over there. And then step three, you're going to have to give Lamar the bag, which I'm okay with. I'll kind of explain my thoughts on that in a second. Then step number 4, man, bring in Lamar Jackson, Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, Christian Darrisaw. That offense would be humming. Win some damn Super Bowls. Let's take a look at Lamar Jackson's passing stats over the past couple of years, because, man, dating back to that 2019 unanimous MVP season from him, man, people say he can't throw the football, but he had 36 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. He was a unanimous MVP that year. We all know Lamar is a dual-threat quarterback, but honestly, his development as a passer of the football has excited me the most about him. And I will say this. Lamar Jackson, I think he's become underrated in the NFL. And whether that's just to NFL fans, coaches, GMs, I really do believe Lamar Jackson has somehow became underrated. This is the number one dual-threat quarterback in the league. And what is today's NFL? It's a lot of quarterbacks making plays outside the pocket. You know, we still have those guys, obviously, like Kirk, Matt Ryan, Tom Brady, those typical statuesque quarterbacks. But a lot of these guys nowadays, it's the Josh Allens, it's the Patrick Mahomes, it's the Herberts, it's the Lamar Jackson. It's these dual-threat quarterbacks. And I think people, because of the injuries over the past couple of years and kind of the drama around Lamar Jackson, I think he's somehow becoming underrated. I do want to ask you guys this. So would you trade for Lamar Jackson? Let's just say it all works out financially. We're able to move off Kirk Cousins and find Kirk Cousins a home. Would you trade for Lamar Jackson? Give me a Y for yes, or give me an N for no down in the comments section. Now we got to talk about it, signing DeAndre Hopkins. I said it, signing DeAndre Hopkins. We may not be talking about trading for DeAndre Hopkins anymore. We could be talking about signing D-Hop. A report came out that the Cardinals could release their star wide receiver, DeAndre Hopkins, if they are unable to trade him. And DeAndre Hopkins, man, you look at his stats, he's one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. 64 receptions last year, 717 yards, and only 9 games played. And that was with a lot of shakiness at the quarterback position. I believe most of those games were played without Kyler Murray as his starting quarterback. But, man, you remember how good he was with those Houston Texans teams, and even dating back to that 2020 season in Arizona, just over 1,400 yards and 6 touchdowns. But, man, look at this wide receiver room. If you were to add DeAndre Hopkins to it, you would have Justin Jefferson obviously being your number 1 wide receiver, the best in the league, and then adding DeAndre Hopkins as being your number 2 guy next to Justin Jefferson with a guy like KJ Osborne. I think it could be an elite wide receiver room. But I will say this. I am curious what the Vikings' plan is at the wide receiver 2 position. They haven't made any moves besides letting Adam Thielen go with that wide receiver room. But I do think it will be KJ. I do think KJ Osborne, I think he's done enough over his first 3 seasons in the NFL to kind of be solidified as a wide receiver 2 for the Vikings. And I think the Vikings are going to be actually playing a lot of more smash mouth football during this upcoming season, because we signed CJ Ham to a 2-year, $3 million deal. We signed Josh Oliver to a 3-year, $21 million deal. Obviously, CJ Ham being that hard-hitting fullback that the Vikings have had. Then obviously Josh Oliver being probably the best blocking tight end in the NFL right now. Josh Oliver is the best blocking tight end in the NFL. And I will say, I do think the Vikings are going to be sitting in a lot more 12 personnel this upcoming season. I think it's going to be Justin Jefferson, KJ Osborne. Obviously, if we do hang on to Dalvin Cook, it's going to be him as well. And then TJ Hawkinson and Josh Oliver, I think they're going to be sitting in a lot more of 12 personnel, trying to establish the run a lot more. And then, hey, if we do end up hopping in the 22 personnel, switch out KJ Osborne for CJ Ham, I think that's another way where the Vikings can improve this running game from last season, because Dalvin Cook and the running game did not have their best season last year. So, hey, I do expect the Vikings to stay in a lot more heavier packages to improve from last season. I just think the running game last year, yeah, it had those burst plays. I think Dalvin Cook, he's still a good enough running back to get you those home runs. But it didn't really seem like we had those consistent 4-5 yard rushes. That really is what it takes to be a good running football team in the NFL. If you take a look at their stats from this past season, this has a team running the football only 1,600 yards as a whole team in 17 games. That is not too good. Only 97 yards per game, 4.1 yards per carry, only 18 rushing touchdowns. I think we're going to see the Vikings a lot more of that smash mouth football, heavier packages, getting Justin Jefferson that advantage. And Kwesi did make this comment at the scouting combine when asked about it, because somebody did ask him, you bring in a lot of these guys like C.J. Ham, Josh Oliver to kind of improve the run game. What would that do for other guys? And he kind of said, people don't understand that Justin Jefferson, he is going to be the number one benefit. Like, he's going to benefit the most from us being in these heavier packages, because the safeties won't be able to kind of run that bracket coverage as much as they used to, because the Vikings are going to be able to run the football. But hey, guys, give me a follow on Twitter. If you guys give me a follow on Twitter and just DM me Skull, I'll give you a follow right back from today's video. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. It's been a great time hanging out with you guys, talking Lamar, talking Justin Jefferson, talking a little Kirk Cousins. We'll see you guys next time. As always, Skull Vikes. All right, back in the chat. Would you trade for – I was going to say, bro, you're not going to throw it up, dog? Come on. Would you trade for Lamar Jackson? No, there's no sponsor at all. He didn't put him on the board. No. Yeah, sure, we'll do that. Yeah. Double sub, ad pin. Yeah. C-Story is saying he's indifferent. Go Pack Go. We got Packers fans coming in the chat. We're going to have to get them out of here, guys. We're going to have to get them out of here. Yeah, definitely. We got him out of here. Jeremy was typing his Skull, getting them out of here. Ryan Webb saying, if we hit our ceiling with Cousins, you actually think Lance has a higher ceiling? Potential is based, not proving yourself yet. No, I mean, that's a good point. I just think, honestly, Trey Lance with his dual threat ability, I just think he has, like, his ultimate potential is obviously just way better than what Kirk Cousins is. That's just kind of where I'm at right now with everything. But I do want you guys to spam something in the chat, because my man Trace doesn't get enough love that he deserves around here. He's killing it on the ones and twos today, and he's been a great sport being the Vikings Now producer as a Saints guy. So give me a TG in the chat. Everybody just give me a quick TG. Give Trace. He's making this all go. We wouldn't be able to do this show without Trace. All the graphics you see on screen right now, it's all him. So show Trace some love and just spam TG in the chat, and we'll give you guys a shout out.
Appreciate it, Seeps. That means the world. Thanks, guys. Thanks, y'all. It's always
show
fun
Trace some love in the chat.
Squad.
Show Trace some love in the chat.
Skull
TG, man. Skull TG.
Skull.
Shout out to C-Story.
Skull. I'd rather hang out with Vikings fans than Cowboys fans, I can tell you that.
Facts. As B. Jackson coming in with the $3 super chat. My man, thank you so much. We're up to $13 on the day so far. I wish we could show the little emoji you sent in, but he sent in the cool little, it's like a hippo or something. He looks like he's playing something right now. Yeah, I don't know what they described it as, but shout out to B. Jackson. Everybody's typing in their TG, showing my man Trizzy Trace some love. Guys, we're chipping away. Lions Talk, that's my goal for today. We're up to $13 in Super Chats so far. Lions Talk, they wrapped up their stream at 108. Saints Now, the wagon, it ended up at 600. That's obviously a lofty goal, but I think we can beat Lions Talk. If somebody comes in with a banger, who knows what could happen. Like I said, deal still on the table. Trace and I will do a little shot fun race. We got these cool machines. Toss back a couple beers for you guys. But coming up here, I am going to getting into a Dream Vikings draft for you guys. That's going to be a ton of fun to get into. But again, we will also have a mailbag at the end of today's show. So if you guys have a question, #Vikings, get them in the comments section. We are going to need some more questions in there for you guys. So #Vikings, anything you want to talk about, you guys can ask me my take on whether it's Kirk Cousins, Jefferson, whatever it may be. How do you think the Vikings offseason has gone so far? Whatever you guys want to talk about, this is kind of your chance to kind of steer the direction of the show a little bit, and it's a great way for me to interact with you guys. Again, shout out to Johnson U, shout out to B Jackson for sending in a super chat and supporting today's show. We really do appreciate it. Bruce Lee saying those skull TGs as well. But right now, we're going to be diving into a perfect Minnesota Vikings 2023 NFL Draft. 2023. We can do it right now. We can do it right now. If you guys want a shout out on the show, type skull in the chat. Or if you guys just think the Vikings are going to win the frickin' North this year, type skull in the chat and we'll give you guys a shout out. We're going to set the timer at a minute again.
Let's go. All right, so we had common MVPs last time. Who's going to be the common MVP this time? Come on.
1 minute on the clock.
Who's going to do it?
Type in skull down there.
C story.
Great question.
Good question.
Hashtag Vikings.
Yes.
Just use hashtag Vikings.
Use it. Gotta
Bruce.
use it.
Bruce might be going back to back right now. Bruce wants it again. Uh-oh, Knowledge TV typing skull. Bruce wants it bad. Bruce is spamming those skulls in the chat.
Skull.
Get it going like US Bank Stadium.
Skull.
Let's go. Let's go.
Skull.
Bruce is getting them going. Bruce wants to be the runaway MVP, the unanimous MVP. Bruce Lee in the chat spamming those skulls. We got 20 seconds left. Bruce Lee won't let me send in. He maxed out on the amount of skulls he could send.
He skulled the YouTube comment section.
He's skulling all over. C Story. Uh-oh. C Story wants it as well.
Wants it back. He said, I got 20 seconds.
5 seconds, C Story.
Go.
Oh, Bruce Lee's back.
Go.
They're going back and forth. Crossed over a minute.
Boom.
Timer's off.
Boom.
Timer's off. C Story. Bruce Lee. Shout out to you guys. Getting the skulls going in the chat. Just trying to have some fun with you guys today. Hey, we're in the dog days of the off season right now, man. There's not too much serious news or rumors that we got to talk about right now. I'm going to say the Vikings haven't really done too much. Fine, you win, low. Bruce, you're in there. Bruce is about to be a 2-time MVP. Add that to your resume, Bruce. 2-time MVP on Vikings Now commenter. He's a commenter, 2-time MVP. Shout out to you. But again, C-Story, you asked a great question earlier. If you just use hashtag Vikings in your comment, it's kind of how our software pulls the question, and you'll be thrown up on screen right next to me, and I'll give you guys my thoughts, and then we're going to repost that video as just a regular cut on our channel, so you'll be able to actually go back and watch it, and you'll kind of be able to kind of dictate where this whole show goes. So use hashtag Vikings, or you guys, obviously, if you send in a super chat, easy way to skip the line and get your question asked. They might have to trade for Hopkins. I heard he may be released.
Use hashtag Vikings.
Yeah, that's a great. Hey, great question. Use hashtag Vikings.
See, the thing is, I want to get all of y'all featured. I just have to have hashtag Vikings.
Exactly.
We have no questions right now. So who wants to, I mean, if you could literally ask 20 questions right now.
Good.
And all of them use hashtag Vikings, you're getting all
there we go.
Just like C-Story.
C-Story. Great question.
Boom.
I could talk about that for hours. Great question, C-Story. Shout out to you. Appreciate it. Nah, that's a great question. Zay Flowers, Quentin Johnson. I actually got some thoughts on those two. So, C-Story, appreciate it. Whatever you guys want to talk about, you guys dictate where this show goes. But before we get into that mailbag, I'm going to kind of hopping into a little mock draft. I kind of had a perfect Minnesota Vikings 2023 NFL draft and what it could look like. Because I think the Vikings, they're limited on picks. They only have 5 picks. But Bruce Lee, shout out to you. That's a great question. We'll definitely be answering that on today's mailbag. But Trace, if you're ready, I'm ready to hop in to what a perfect Vikings 2023 NFL draft could potentially look like. Let's get after it right now. Welcome to the Vikings Now. I'm your host, Patrick Siepman, and on today's show, we will look at what a perfect Minnesota Vikings 2023 NFL draft would look like. Vikings obviously have very limited picks in this upcoming draft, so they got to be very strategic, and they really got to hit positions of need, BPA, they got to get it all. But like I said, Vikings, they only have 5 picks, and they only have 2 picks in the top 100. They got the 23rd overall pick, obviously in round 1. They got that round 3 pick at 87th. They got round 4 at 119. And then they got the 5th round pick at 159. And then they do have a 6th round pick at 211th. And I just want to say this before we get into it. How weird is it that the Minnesota Vikings don't have a 7th-round pick this year? It's kind of a joke between Vikings fans that Rick Spielman, our former GM, he would just haul and hound 7th-round picks. I just thought it was pretty interesting that this year, first time in a while, Vikes don't have a 7th-round pick. But in round 1, I got the Minnesota Vikings selecting Deonte Banks, the cornerback out of Maryland. Guys, let me tell you something. I absolutely love this guy. He's 6'1", 200 pounds. He's very experienced in a variety of coverage. At Maryland, whether it's cover 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever it may be, press man, he played it all, and his lower body is very fluid. He's a very fluid runner. He's a very, very high up there kind of cornerback prospect. And look at what he did at the Combine this past season. He ran a 4.35 40-yard dash, and the 10-yard split during that 40-yard dash was a 1.49, and he had a 42-inch vertical jump with an 11.4 broad. So this is a 6'1" corner with a 42-inch vert, and it runs a 4.3. I love this guy, and his stats and coverage this past season were fantastic. When teams are targeting him, he only let up 43.3% of completions on him. He had 8 pass breakups, 1 interception. He did allow 4 touchdowns, but again, it was on very limited throws his way. As Deonte Banks, he was a great player for the Maryland Terrapins this past season. And hey, if we're looking at this Vikings depth chart right now, the Vikings going to need to draft somebody in this draft. I mean, Byron Murphy, great pickup. I like him. Is he a true cornerback 1 in this league? Probably not. He's probably more of a cornerback 2. Caleb Evans and Andrew Booth Jr. Last year's draft picks in the 2nd and 3rd round, who are going to be entering year 2. They dealt with injuries last year. Still huge question marks on both of them. But right now, the Vikings only have 5 players on their roster that could potentially play corner for them. So overall, my take on this is the Vikings need to draft a corner in round 1. I understand that I would love to go BPA. Obviously, every team wants to go BPA in the draft. But for the Vikings, with how weak this cornerback room is right now, I think you have to go corner round 1. Because, hey, I am a fan of Byron Murphy, but I would be even bigger of a fan of him if he was a corner 2, and we could potentially get a franchise corner like a Deonte Banks at the 23rd overall spot. I've seen Deonte Banks mocked in from probably pick 17 through like 27. So it's really going to have to come down to if other teams don't take Deonte Banks. And if he's there at 23, I'm taking him at 23. But I want to ask you guys this in the comments section. Would you draft Deonte Banks at 23 overall? If you would take him, give me a D for draft. If you would pass on him, just give me a P for pass. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's video. Since if you just write down there in the YouTube comment section, if you guys get hit with a YouTube ad break right now, they always throw YouTube ads right around this time. Just let it play. Go answer today's pinned comment. So round 3, pick 87 overall in this year's draft. I got the Vikings selecting Kobe Turner, the defensive lineman out of Wake Forest. He's a big boy, man. He's 6'3", just under 300 pounds, and he's got an excellent feel for working off blockers, and he's a technician with a high motor. That's what the scouts from the scouting combine, that's kind of the biggest takeaway with him, is that high motor that he has. If we're looking at some of his strengths, he's got a very impressive get off, man. He is very quick on that line of scrimmage. He's very fast. When that ball is snapped, he's getting off it very well. And then he's got a good pad level in terms of getting leverage on his blocks. He for a bigger dude at 6'3", 290, he can get low, and he's got pretty good pad level. And then, like I said, he frees up linebackers very well. He's a man in the middle that's just going to eat blockers, and I've always compared it. Offensive line to running backs is the same thing as defensive line to linebackers, and he gets solid extension with his arms. He's actually got pretty long arms. He's able to extend out and move off blockers very well, and I think he would fit in very well with this defensive line unit for the Minnesota Vikings. Right now, the Vikings really with Dean Lowry, Kyrus Tonga, and Harrison Phillips. Besides corner, this is probably the second biggest position to need for the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, obviously bringing in Dean Lowry this past season, that's a big-time get for the Minnesota Vikings, taking him from the Green Bay Packers. But we're still kind of lacking that true interior defensive lineman. I think Kobe Turner would fit that very, very well. Now round 4 at pick 119 for the Minnesota Vikings. I got them taking You guys are going to like this guy. Ivan Pace Jr., the Cincinnati linebacker. He's a big-time hitter. He's elite against the run. I had to put it in all caps right there. He hits hard. He's a hitter. He's going to make you feel it. He's going to make the other team's running back feel it. He's fast. He's explosive. I'm a big fan of Ivan Pace Jr. Plus the Vikings, man, they're going to need to draft another linebacker because, hey, Jordan Hicks, Vikings decided to bring him back. I thought he would have been for sure cut by the Minnesota Vikings. But for some reason, they decided to bring him back. Troy Dye, he's not really going to get any playing time. But Brian Asamoah, he's kind of my little hidden gem on this Vikings roster. A third-round pick from Oklahoma last year. One of the fastest linebackers in the NFL. And I will say, if you would pair up Asamoah and Ivan Pace Jr., I think they would absolutely flourish together. Because what Ivan Pace does well, being that hard hitter, he's not as fast as a guy like Brian Asamoah is. But, man, is he a hard hitter, and he's great against the run. Getting him in the 4th round, that's why I say it's kind of this dream draft scenario to me. I think it would be absolutely fantastic. Him, Brian Asamoah, they would be great together. And I think under the Brian Flores defense of being versatile, being very aggressive, those two could have big seasons in Minnesota. But I ask you guys this, what do you guys think is the biggest need for the Minnesota Vikings heading into the NFL draft? Personally, I think it's still cornerback, but I could see people going linebacker, and I could see people potentially going defensive line. But while you're also down there answering that question on what the Vikings' biggest need is, hit that subscribe button. It's a free way to help our channel out here at Vikings Now. It's free right below there. There's the link at Vikings Today. Just go down there and hit that subscribe button. It helps me out. It helps me look good for my bosses. Now at round 5, pick 158. The Vikings select West Virginia wide receiver Bryce Ford Wheaton. Guys, I'm like trying to contain the smile on my face right now because this is one of my favorite prospects in this year's NFL draft. He's 6'4", 221 pounds. And guys, just go throw on his highlights on YouTube, man. He is fantastic. He's got this big frame, massive wingspan. He's a jump ball specialist. He's probably my favorite day 3 pick in this upcoming year's draft because, man, look at what he did at the combine. That 40-yard dash coming in at 4.38. The 10-yard split on that 40 at 1.54. He's got a 41-inch vertical. The 3-and-cone drill, that's his weakness at 6.97. But, man, he is an explosive, big-time play receiver. Looking at his stats here at West Virginia, it's not going to blow you away. I mean, just under 700 yards, 10.9 yards per catch, and 7 touchdowns. This is not a guy that's going to really blow you out the water production-wise. But it's that potential. It's that 6'4", 220-pound frame that runs a 4.38. This guy excites me. Again, he's my favorite day 3 pick for the Minnesota Vikings, and I don't think he would have to come in and play right away because of guys like KJ Osborne, because of guys like Jalen Naylor, Justin Jefferson. He can maybe wait a little bit and develop into a true wide receiver 1 for the wide receiver 2 for the Minnesota Vikings next to Justin Jefferson. And hey, even if you take him in round 5, he ends up being a very solid wide receiver 3 for the Vikes for years to come. To me, that's a huge win to me. I would love if the Vikes took Bryce Ford Wheaton in round 5. And now in round 6, got to bring home the hometown kid, Mohamed Ibrahim, the running back out of Minnesota, 5'8", 203 pounds, and he's dealt with injuries throughout his college career. And I know a lot of Vikings fans would love to bring this guy to Minnesota, but man, he hits like a hammer when he runs. Again, he's one of those guys, you throw in his highlights at college, you really can't believe that he is going to be available in round 6. He is 25 years old, so again, I'm not really sure if the Vikings would want to take a 25-year-old running back that's dealt with injuries, but look at his production this past year, 320 carries. Just under 1,700 yards, 5.2 yards per carry, 20 touchdowns on the season last year. And I do remember that Ohio State game from I think 2 years ago when he was dominating in week 1. Then he obviously ended up tearing his ACL that year. But I do think he's a great bang for your buck prospect. I think you would be taking him late day 3. And yes, he is 25 years old. He probably won't be getting that second contract in the NFL just because running backs, they kind of tap out at that 28, 29, 30-year-old range. So you would get him on his rookie deal. Again, this would kind of have to come down to if the Vikings do end up moving off a guy like Dalvin Cook, which I still expect them to do before the start of next season. I will be shocked if Dalvin's wearing that purple and gold for the Vikings next year, but pair him up with Alexander Mattison and a Ty Chandler and a Kene Wangu. I mean, you would have two guys in Madison and Ibrahim that are really strong power backs with two guys that are really versatile, really fast, really explosive, and guys like Ty Chandler and Kene Wangu. But that's my dream Vikings NFL draft. I think those 5 players would be absolutely fantastic for the Minnesota Vikings. I think it would be a dream for me because it really would turn around this defense. But if you guys made it to the end of today's video, hit that subscribe button. Show us some love here on Vikings Now by Chat Sports. I really do appreciate it. And hey, as always, Skol Vikes. We had a super chat come in from Icy Matty Ice during the cut. He said, what are the odds Dalvin Cook gets traded? Honestly, yeah, we'll answer this in the mailbag as well. You know, it's funny. I mean, if you would have asked me this right after Alexander Mattison re-signed his deal with the Minnesota Vikings, I would have probably been sitting at maybe 60, 65. Right now, I'm probably, honestly, as the days go on, I'm probably sitting around 50 right now. I would still be shocked if he's on the Vikings roster next season. But again, I just don't really know what the Vikings plan is at running back because Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, analytical GM. Do you really want to give $23 million per year to that running back group? And I did see actually this on Twitter today. Comparing the Vikings running back situation to the Browns running back situation with Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Vikings trying to do something similar with Dalvin Cook and Alexander Mattison. Honestly, Cook's just nowhere near the runner that Nick Chubb is. But again, the point being was that Kwesi, during his time in Cleveland, he did end up paying running back. So could he do it again in Minnesota? I don't know. I really doubt that Kwesi's gonna be doing that, but I don't know. We'll see. I'm not really too sure what the Vikings' plan is at that running back position, but I don't know. Matty Ice saying also in the chat, Skull Nation, we're taking the North. Excited for this defense. I am too, Matty Ice. I'm very excited to see this defense play this upcoming year. I think, guys like Lewis Seen coming back. We don't really talk about him too much. But Andrew Booth, the Caleb Evans, a bunch of these guys, I'm very, very excited to see them play. Again, the Vikings aren't the favorite to win the NFC North this upcoming year. How crazy is that? The Detroit Lions, mostly on every single sports book, are the favorite to win the North. And honestly, the Bears, they're right behind us according to a lot of bookmakers. But with all this, you guys, is this way before we get into the mailbag, would you draft Deonte Banks, the cornerback out of Maryland? I don't know if you guys have done your research too much on this guy, but he's very exciting. Just give me a D for draft or give me a P for pass in the comments section. Honestly, I would take him, man. I mean, Deonte Banks is absolutely incredible. Deonte Banks is him. I think he's going to be a great corner. Oops is saying trade back. Honestly, I wouldn't be opposed to trading back as well. The Vikings obviously only have 5 picks with a ton of holes on their roster. I wouldn't be against that at all. As Davey Chains in the chat with a $5 super chat. Shout out to you, my friend. Davey Chains, a legend here from the watch parties during the year, saying if we drafted Hooker, we'd have a hooker getting to nail. Yo, I didn't even think about that, Davey Chains. That is incredible. I didn't even think about that. Hooker getting to Naylor. The play-by-play calls I could have next season if the Vikings do take Hendon Hooker. We've seen a lot of mock drafts have been somehow mocking the Vikings to take Hendon Hooker at 23rd overall, and I got some thoughts on it. I was against it before I thought of that, Davey Chains. That's absolutely hilarious. Hooker getting to Naylor. Shout out to Davey Chains. We do appreciate it, man. Oh yeah. That is going in the mailbag.
Everyone
you'll
type
see that.
DC for Davey Chains.
Yeah,
That's elite.
Shout out to Davey Chains. Give him some love in the chat. As here's an update on our super chat battle. Our Lions channel here. They're the favorite to win the NFC North. They ended up at $108 in super chats. My man Trace Gerard and his Saints Now wagon ended up at $600. And then right now we're up to 20. We're kind of crawling our way up there. So if you guys want to show some love, support the channel here, and kind of steer the conversation, best way to do that is a super chat battle. And my man Trace and I said a shotgun race if we get the 100 total. We're about 80 away right now. Maybe somebody could drop a banger and get us there in just one super chat. But there's an updated look at our super chat battle. And also, last kind of mailbag call here. Use hashtag Vikings to get your questions on today's mailbag. Or you could super chat. You know, the easiest way, kind of compare it to the fast pass at Disneyland. Your question automatically gets answered. Even if we're in this cut and you guys do send in a super chat, my man Trace will put it on there and it'll be the next question asked on today's show. So get those questions in there. We got a mailbag coming up here in a couple of minutes. Whatever you want to talk about, anything Minnesota Vikings related, I'll be giving you guys my thoughts. It could be anything around DeAndre Hopkins. Obviously, there's a lot of Kirk Cousins, Lamar Jackson, Trey Lance chatter going on amongst Vikings media. But get those questions in there, guys. If you guys do have a question on the Minnesota Vikings that you guys want me to answer. Oops in the chat saying, I think Vikings have holes in defense. We have to go defense. Definitely we'll get to that in the mailbag. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Vikings production saying, I thought we were going to keep Kendricks and cut Hicks. I thought that too, man. I really did. I 100% did. I think they had the same cap savings, if you will, for cutting each of them. So, yeah. C-Story, what? Sure, mortgaging future QBs, like trading Daniil Hunter. That's a great question, actually, C-Story. We'll be sure to include that in the mailbag. That's a great one. I love that. I love that idea, actually. Daniil Hunter, we haven't talked about trading him too much. Kind of Daniil Hunter trade rumors has kind of slowed down just a little bit here as of late. Is Jeremy Pecula giving me a skull in the chat? But again, you guys want to support the show, send us a super chat. It's a little dollar icon down there. And if it is your first time super chatting on the channel, we actually got a cool little graphic that we could show for you guys. And YouTube will kind of show some love to your way. But Trace, if you're ready to go for the mailbag, I'm ready to go. Jeremy's in there typing his skull. Shout out to Jeremy. Yeah, let's get after it. All right, mailbag coming your way. Welcome to the Vikings Now. I am your host for today's show, Patrick Siepman. And on today's show, we got a Minnesota Vikings mailbag where I answer questions from Vikings fans, and I answer them as a Minnesota Vikings fan. It's one of the favorite things we do here at Chat Sports. It's great fan interaction. You guys kind of get to steer the direction of today's show. And Matty Ice, he gets us going right away with a $2 super chat. He says, what are the odds Dalvin Cook gets traded? So honestly, at first, after the Alexander Madison re-signing, I would have probably said I'm around 60-65% that Dalvin Cook is gone. But as the days keep going on, it's just we get closer to the NFL draft. We get closer to the training camp. We get closer to the start of the NFL season. I'm starting to think Dalvin might actually be on this roster. And it kind of comes down to the question that, is Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, with how analytical he is as a GM, would he want to put $23 million of our current cap space into the running back position? I'm not sure. Matty Ice, great question. It's probably a question that a lot of Vikings fans are wondering right now. I'd probably say, what are the odds Dalvin Cook gets traded? I think it's 50-50 heading into the NFL draft so far. Then we had another $5 super chat coming in from an MVP here at Vikings Now, Davey Chains, saying if we drafted Hendon Hooker, the Tennessee quarterback, we'd have Hooker getting to Naylor, talking about Jalen Naylor, the wide receiver out of Michigan State. This gave me a great laugh here. But again, Hendon Hooker, he's been mocked to the Vikings a lot at 23 overall. And I honestly wasn't the biggest fan of it. But just to hear that call, whether it's by me or play-by-play guy Paul Allen, Hooker to Naylor, we might have to do it just for that. Davey Chains, appreciate your support here on the channel. We love getting you in the chat and everything. Next question coming in here from C Story. Who do you think is a better fit in the Vikings wide receiver room, Zay Flowers or Quentin Johnson? Straight up, I think it's Zay Flowers. I love Quentin Johnson. I think he's going to be a great receiver. I think he'll be probably a great wide receiver too in the NFL. But Zay Flowers, man, he's something. If you guys haven't turned on this kid's highlights, he's the wide receiver out of Boston College. He's incredibly twitchy, and he's been getting a ton of Antonio Brown comparisons. I think he would be great next to Justin Jefferson, kind of being a more possession receiver where Justin Jefferson's kind of just all around, do whatever you want. But out of these two, I would probably have to lean Zay Flowers. But if the Vikings could get either of those two guys at 23rd overall, I'd kind of be all in, and I'd want to do it. Good question, C-Story. I appreciate it. Next question from Skull Nations. Do you want the Vikings to trade up and snag Anthony Richardson? Ooh, I like this question. Good question coming in from Skull Nations right now. So trading up and snagging Anthony Richardson. It would take a lot to trade up. I would assume you would probably want to trade up to probably 3 because the Indianapolis Colts, they're drafting at 4. I expect them to take a quarterback. So the Vikings to move up from 23 to 3, you're probably going to have to send this year's first-round pick, probably 2 more, and maybe even a second-round pick on top of it. But, hey, if you think Anthony Richardson is that guy, and if you think Anthony Richardson could really be a franchise quarterback for you, giving up 2 extra first-round picks and a second-round pick, I don't really care. Like, I think it's just going to come down to if Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell think they could get the most out of a guy like Anthony Richardson. I'd be all in to do it. I think it would be a very fun and exciting move, and I love his upside. I love his potential. But, man, he's a guy who only threw, I think it was 53.8% completion percentage in college. There's obviously some red flags with him, but I don't know. I'm seeing a lot more green flags from Anthony Richardson. But I'll ask you guys this. Be the GM for this question for me. Would you draft Anthony Richardson? Let's just say the Cardinals offered you that 3rd overall pick. You obviously got to throw in future draft compensation. Would you draft Anthony Richardson? Give me a Y for yes or give me an N for no in the comment section. This will be the pinned comment on today's video. YouTube ad break comes. Just let it play and get down there and answer today's question. B. Jackson, great question here. Also, shout out to you super chatting earlier. He said, would you trade back and get some picks and draft Hooker late 1st or 2nd with the trade back? This is a good question, B. Jackson, and we'll actually take a look at the Vikings draft picks so far for the season because it is very limited. They only have 5 picks and only 2 picks in the top 100 so far. So again, honestly, it's just what you think about Hendon Hooker. I mean, he's 25 years old. He's coming off a torn ACL, but he's incredibly talented, and his numbers that he put up at Tennessee this past season were phenomenal. I mean, he was probably the Heisman favorite before he tore his ACL. But I do just have that big red flag for me is being 25, coming off a torn ACL. But besides that, Hendon Hooker, he's a very intriguing prospect to me. If we would probably draft him in the 2nd round, you trade back. Maybe you trade your 1st round pick, get 2 seconds, take Hendon Hooker with one of those seconds. I'd be all in. Thanks for the question, B. Jackson. That's a good one. Bruce Lee, coming in with this question. Now with Adam gone, Adam Thielen, do you think KJ will hit over under 1,000 yards in the 2023 NFL season? That's a great question because I think he will. I'm a huge KJ Osborne fan, as you guys know. He's honestly one of my favorite Vikings kind of players that we've drafted out of recent memory. He's great in the community, and he's honestly just a heck of a football player. I think we saw KJ kind of in splashes this past season. You guys remember that Colts game in the 33-0 comeback that the Vikings had? KJ Osborne was fantastic. He went for like 160 yards or something. I just felt like this year, KJ was always kind of that 4th man out because obviously you had Justin Jefferson, you had Adam Thielen, and then when they traded for TJ Hawkinson, KJ Osborne was kind of on the back burner a little bit. So I do think KJ will actually be the wide receiver 2 for the Vikes this upcoming season. I know a lot of guys are leaning, could we go get D-Hop? Could we sign OBJ? Could we draft a guy like Zay Flowers, Quentin Johnson, Jackson Smith-Njigba, whatever it may be? My bold prediction, KJ, wide receiver 2, and give me over on 1,000 yards. Bruce, thanks for the question. Wow, we got a legend here. Scully Roley, great question from you. Could the Vikings trade Dalvin Cook for Austin Eckler? So if you guys don't know, Austin Eckler, his name's been thrown around in the latest trade rumors around the NFL because he wants out of LA due to a new contract. And listen, Austin Eckler, he's one of the best receiving backs in the NFL. His past 4 seasons catching the football have been absolutely fantastic. He had over 100 receptions last season for just over 700 yards out of the running back position. And then back in 2019, I mean, absolutely fantastic. 92 receptions, 993 yards, just incredible. And also, the Chargers are setting to work out a deal with Austin Eckler. Kind of breaking news here. He now has permission to seek a trade. He discussed that he actually has a permission to seek a trade here. So pretty much Austin Eckler, he's going to be able to kind of go out there and kind of see what team could be looking for him. I don't know. I mean, I think if you're giving up an older running back, but an expensive running back like Dalvin Cook to go get a guy like Austin Eckler, who you're going to have to pay, he's a tremendous back, tremendous dual threat ability. I mean, out of the backfield, catching, running the ball, whatever it may be. I don't know. But I'll ask you guys this. Do you want to trade for Austin Eckler? Whether it be Dalvin Cook or whatever it may be, give me a T for trade if you would do it. Give me a P for pass if you would pass on trading for Austin Eckler. C Story with the next question. This is a good one. What's on your mortgaging, or what are you mortgaging for the future of the quarterbacks of next draft? Okay, like trading Danielle Hunter for a first next year and our next year pick to get into the top 5. Okay, C Story. So I see what you're getting at here. So Caleb Williams, Drake May, generational quarterbacks in next year's draft. You even got guys like, J.J. McCarthy, Spencer Rattler, other guys in there. Jefferson, the guy from Arkansas, who I would love to actually draft. But C-Story, I get what you're saying. So Danielle Hunter, he's been kind of thrown in the trade rumors for the Vikings the past couple of seasons. They kind of died down as of late. I would actually love to do this. Obviously, if you could get into the top 5 of next year's draft, no duh. I mean, I'd definitely do it. Caleb Williams, Drake May, those would be your franchise quarterbacks in Minnesota for years to come. C-Story, I'd be all in. Davey Chains, next question here on the mailbag, saying, should the Vikings package Cook and our 23rd overall pick to a top 10 RB needing team to move up to either get Brian Bresee or Christian Gonzalez? If I had to pick out of those two guys, give me Christian Gonzalez. Christian Gonzalez is my number 1 corner in this year's draft. It was Devin Witherspoon at first. But honestly, if you turn on Christian Gonzalez tape, he is such a smooth runner. His sister is an All-American track star. He comes from a very athletic family. He's extremely fast. He's just extremely smooth. You turn on his highlights and you see why he is the number 1 quarterback in this year's draft. I love Christian Gonzalez. Obviously, we mentioned earlier a guy like Deonte Banks, kind of those freak athletes at the corner position. But out of those two, I would definitely go Christian Gonzalez. Honestly, I don't hate that trade package at all. I really don't. Dalvin Cook, this year's pick, getting to the top 10. Maybe you send it to Atlanta Falcons. They're picking at number 8 overall. They need a corner. Maybe you give them Dalvin Cook at number 23. I like that. Good idea, Davey Change. Appreciate it. The greatest ever, saying, who is a player you want the Vikings to trade for? That's a good question. Top of my head, I'll get creative with this. I'll kind of go pick a player I'm a big fan of. What about T. Higgins? I am a huge fan of T. Higgins, and he's kind of been thrown out there in the latest trade rumors. He actually just traded, I guess you could say he traded his number 85. He's going to be wearing number 5 next season. But give me T. Higgins. I think he would be a ton of fun to bring in the Minnesota. Obviously, T. Higgins is playing with Justin Jefferson's teammate right now, Jamar Chase. But pairing him up with Justin Jefferson, T.J. Hawkinson, I think that would be a ton of fun. T. Higgins, he's one of my favorite non-Vikings in the NFL. I would love to bring him in. Obviously, the Bengals have said that they don't plan on trading him. But, hey, they got to pay Joe Burrow. They got to pay Jamar Chase. They're going to take up a lot of cap space. Maybe they could be looking to trade off a guy like T. Higgins. Who knows? Next question coming in here from Oops61869 saying, do you think we will sign a free agent corner like Rocky Sin? I hope so. I mean, we talked about Rocky Sin about a week ago right now. I would love to bring in Rocky Sin. I think Rocky Sin is a great corner to a very shaky Vikings cornerback room. If there's anybody or if there's any position that the Vikings need to address first and foremost, it's the cornerback group. I love Byron Murphy, but he's still more of a 2 than me, and the Vikings need more of these press man corners, in my opinion. Oops, I would love Rocky Sin. That's a great question. And honestly, Vikings, whether it's drafting or signing a guy, that free agent position needs to be addressed. But again, thank you guys so much for watching today's mailbag. We go live every other Wednesday at around 3 o'clock. So if you guys are tuning in from there, just comment real one on today's video. I love kind of getting in the comments and seeing all the guys that type real one because, hey, you're actually watching this whole video. You're actually listening to what I have to say, and it means a lot. So again, I really do appreciate it, guys. Thank you guys so much. And hey, as always, Skol Vikes. See what we got going on in the chat. Jackson is a male content like Diggs or Beckham. Stay away from his personality type. Talking about Lamar Jackson. I get it. Lamar's got some questions around him. But Bruce Lee saying real one, first timer. Shout out to you, Bruce. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us all day today. But how it works here at Chat Sports, we got very limited studio space, so we are going to have to probably get out of here right now. Sweet. Appreciate it. we are going to probably have to get out of here if we don't continue to get super chats or questions or whatever you guys want to talk about here. Durability concerns as well, talking about Lamar Jackson. Listen, man, I get the concerns over Lamar. I just think his upside is just there, man. I mean, Lamar Jackson, he's it. So pretty much how this works, keeping us live here on Vikings Now. Davey Chains, he sent in the last super chat. So pretty much what we do here is if we don't get super chats, we are going to have to cut the stream off, saying, oops, he would be too expensive. Yeah, I mean, listen, Lamar's going to be expensive. But also, I would pay expensive for a franchise quarterback, if you know what I mean. Like, I would be able to go all in on a franchise quarterback, considering you are getting Lamar Jackson. Oops is saying, how do I super chat? So, Oops, it's actually the little dollar icon down at the bottom, like right when you send a chat in. It's like right next to the emoji thing. So if you send one in there, hey, we can stay live. We can have a ton of fun here, hang out with you guys, whatever it may be. Me and my man Trace, we got nothing left to do today. So if you guys want to keep us in here, keep us in the studio, please do. Please do so. We would really appreciate Chat Sports. We got a 2-minute shot clock on right now. We're going to let that puppy fly. No more super chats come in. We're going to have to sign off. Anyways, it was a great show hanging out with you guys. Davey Chains, I appreciate you sending in your super chats. Johnson, you, Matty Ice, and B. Jackson, appreciate you guys for the support as always. Again, Vikings, it's going to be an interesting draft, man. I'm in limited picks. I am very excited to see kind of what they do with them. John Chaney typing in his favorite Viking of all time, Francis Asbury Tarkenton. I did not know his first name was Francis. The more you know. The more you know. I always just thought it was Fran. As Oops, $5 super chat. Shout out to you, keeping us live here. Oops, I really do appreciate it, my friend. Bringing us to $25 so far today. Oops, we could talk about whatever you want to talk about now, man. We really do appreciate it. Bringing up to $25 is now we are only, I think, 70-something away from our Lions Talk channel. There he is. Oops, 61869. He's been holding down the chat all day long. Everybody give us Skull Oops in the chat right now. Shout out to you. Shout out to you. Davey Chains in the chat saying we should target Lance. He's 23 and there's room for improvement. Let him sit a year behind Kirk. So I've been saying that as well. I've been saying, trading for Trey Lance, it's an idea I want. Like, honestly, I kind of agree with the Trey Lance trade idea just because he does have that incredible upside that you talk about, Davey Chains. Obviously, he's not a polished quarterback as of right now. Obviously, not Lamar Jackson. Obviously, Kirk Cousins better right now as it is. I don't know. But I'll ask you guys this. Do you want to trade for Trey Lance? Type T for trade or type P for pass. Expect to see a couple of T's in there in the chat. But Oops, we appreciate your $5 super chat, man. That actually goes a long way here at Vikings Now. As always, again, thank you guys so much. We really do appreciate it. Skull Oops coming in from Davey Chains. We do got a minute left on the shot clock, so if no more super chats come in when that minute runs up, we are going to have to sign off. That's how it is, how it works here at Chat Sports. And here's actually the updated look at our super chat battle. We kind of had this race going on. Actually looks tough as hell. I was like kind of imagining how it looked. I'm like, no, that looks sweet. But we do have a super chat battle, our Lions show here at Chat Sports. They went live earlier this week. They got up to $108. We're up to $25, and it's all credit to you guys, so I appreciate it. Oops is saying, I feel like he will restructure. Yeah, so I mean, that report came out that Kirk offered to take less money in order to stay here longer, and the Vikings turned it down. I don't really know how true that report was, but we'll see. Oops is saying, I feel like there are some more restructure coming to free up more money for free agents like Brian O'Neill. Like Brian O'Neill. Yes, that's a great point. Yeah, Brian O'Neill, his contract, I think he's got like a $19 million cap hit next season. I could easily see him restructuring. He's obviously a team-friendly guy, so no, Oops, I could definitely see that. Maybe be a guy to bring in like a Rock Ya-Sin or whatever it may be. So again, 14 seconds remaining on the shot clock. It was great hanging out with you guys. Again, appreciate everybody who sent in a super chat today. I know it goes a long way here. We really do appreciate it. Trace and I love hanging out with you guys every Wednesday, whether it's Saints, Vikings, whatever it may be. Thank you guys so much. Oops is saying, yeah, then there's the Zadarius Smith situation. That's a whole nother beast that we could kind of uncover here. Another big cap hit. He could potentially be traded. I don't know. He asked out of Minnesota. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? But again, hit that sub button, guys. If you guys are still watching here, you clearly like a little bit what we're doing. It's free. Helps us out here. Makes us look good for our bosses. Oops is saying, yeah, I probably think he's gone as well. He did pretty much say he wants to leave. Maybe this could be a thing like Kwesi and Kevin O'Connor saying, we're staying here. I don't know. But also, give me a follow on Twitter before we head on out of here at Pat Siepman NFL. I'll be talking to you guys pretty much all season long, all up until the Vikings win the Super Bowl next season. So thank you guys so much. Great hanging out with you guys. See you guys next time. Skol Vikes.